All right, turn on my camera. All right, now we are live. So my name is Chris Berry, certified LLaw attorney, certified financial planner with Castle Wealth Group. And we do these weekly wisdom webinars every Wednesday at 1 o'clock. It's really just a chance to hop on, talk about what's going on in the world, and then also answer any questions families or clients have. So if you do have a question or something that you want us to talk on, please put it in the Q&A. More than happy to address it. And with that, also I always like to share a positive focus. So something positive that happens recently is that my daughter Madison, she just did something called Odyssey of the Mind, which is kind of like an engineering project type thing. And her team came in first at regionals, which was awesome. And we just had states this last week. And her team took fifth in the state of Michigan, which is pretty darn cool. She was a little disappointed because they don't get to go to nationals. It's only first through third. So she was a little bummed, but still was pretty darn cool that they took fifth in the state, and she really enjoyed it. So that part was cool. All right, now with that, let me go ahead and share my screen. And just need to hit some buttons to be able to do that. Oops. And come on, technology. There we go. All right, cool. We're in business. Again, if you do have a question, feel free to put it in the Q&A. Keep in mind, this is just general information. If you want to see how this applies to your situation, make sure to reply back or shoot us an email or give us a call to see how it applies to your situation. So I didn't have any questions this week, but what I wanted to do is talk about something that we've had a lot of discussions with in terms of people we've been meeting with as well as clients. And one of the most important things really right now that we think that you should be thinking about from a legal, financial, and tax planning standpoint is having what I call a IRA exit strategy. So an IRA exit strategy. So why is this important? Well, the first thing is that have this Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. And the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act runs from 2018 to 2025. So it expires in 2026. And what it does is it says across the board that once we reach 2026, your taxes are going up. Okay, so your taxes across the board are going up 3 to 5%, depending on which tax bracket you're in. So if you're in the 22% tax bracket, it's going to 25. If you're in the 24% tax bracket, it's going to 28. And even some of the 22% tax brackets actually going to 28 as well. So given this, also we're in debt. So we're $31 trillion in debt. Prior to the pandemic, we were $22 trillion. We just passed another $1.7 trillion spending bill. And then now we have to worry about these kind of bank bailouts, as well as the investor bailouts as well. So that's kind of concerning. And then also we've had the Secure Act. So the Secure Act passed originally in 2019, right before the end of the year, right before the pandemic. And then also we have Secure Act 2.0, which recently passed. And the big thing is that with this, the IRS is coming after pre-tax accounts like 401ks, IRAs, because when they passed this, there was $22 trillion sitting in debt, and inside of your 401ks and IRAs, there was $26 trillion. So the Secure Act is a direct attack on your IRAs and 401ks, but they know they can't come after your 401ks and IRAs. They're coming after your kids once they inherit it. So what the Secure Act said is now they can come after these inherited IRAs. So when you pass away with pre-tax dollars, now the kids have to pay all the taxes, must be paid within 10 years. So all the taxes on your pre-tax accounts have to be paid within 10 years. Prior to the Secure Act, they could stretch out the taxes over their lifetime, because what they saw was we're $22 trillion in debt. And so they wanted to come after the $26 trillion sitting in these pre-tax accounts, but they knew they couldn't come after yours. So they're going to come after your kids once you pass away. So they wanted you to die so that they could get this pre-tax dollars to pay the debt. But now we're not $22 trillion in debt. With this, following the pandemic, we're now $31 trillion in debt. And so you couple all these things together, the concern is, what is the government going to do? Well, we know taxes are scheduled to go up, but they could go up much higher. So if that's the case, what should you be thinking about? Well, what you should be thinking about, so given that, like, what to do? So given all this, what do we do? Well, let's look at what accounts we have in our pre-tax bucket. This is money that's never been taxed, okay? We call this like always tax bucket. So this is your traditional 401ks, 403bs, pre-tax IRAs, okay? So the idea is having some type of IRA exit strategy, because if taxes go up, understand when you take money out, you have to pay tax on these. These are always taxed. The value of these accounts go down if taxes go up. So if taxes go up 10%, you've just lost 10% of your IRA. If taxes go up 3%, you've lost 3% of your IRA. So, so with that, if we know taxes are going up, what's important is to have some type of IRA exit strategy. So look at, you know what, maybe in an intelligent manner, I should be pulling money out of these accounts and putting them somewhere else. Now, the key to do this is you have to pay the tax, okay? But I'd rather pay the tax now at a 22 or 24% tax than a 25 or 28% tax in the future. And there's different things we can do. So we can have this money go to like a trust, like an asset protection trust, okay? So now it's asset protected inside of a trust, and it's post-tax, and now it can be left to the kids tax-free. We go to things like Roth conversions. So money that can now grow tax-free. And so really it's a two-step process with regards to having an IRA exit strategy. And so the first step is figuring out how much to move. And that's really all we do is we look at your tax return and investment statements, look to see how much you have in these pre-tax accounts. That part's pretty easy. So the question is how much? And then second is, where does it go? So you pay the tax and then where do you invest it? And that's more of a nuanced question, and it just depends on what your goals are, what's your strategies, what's your overall plan. But the big thing, and I can't stress this enough, is that you should have some type of IRA exit strategy. I think taxes are one of the biggest risks out there and biggest opportunities based on all the things that I just mentioned. The big thing being we know taxes are going up with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. So I would rather pay taxes right now at one of the lowest historical marginal tax rates ever in history rather than wait for them to go up in 2026, or if not sooner, and if not much higher than what they're scheduled. So just something to think about. We're having this conversation with a lot of people right now. All right, here's a question that came in. So how is an attorney in fact held to account for self-dealing probate court, civil court? Okay, so the question is, let's say you have a power of attorney and the question is, how are they held accountable? Okay. What about self-dealing? What if they're acting in their own interest versus someone else's? Okay, so we see this role, and the first thing to understand is when you're serving as a power of attorney for someone, you're wearing this hat, and you're wearing the hat of what's called a fiduciary. So, and this is going to be whether you're a financial power of attorney. This is if you're a trustee, if you're a personal representative under a will. With all of these roles, you owe a fiduciary responsibility to the person that has appointed you. Meaning you, by law, by accepting that role of power of attorney, you owe a duty to act on behalf of that person. By accepting that role of trustee, you owe a duty to act on behalf of that person. By accepting the role as a personal representative, you owe a duty to follow the terms of the will. With the trust, you have to follow the terms of the trust. So by you signing and accepting that role, you are now a fiduciary. So you're taking on responsibility. I see some families, they fight to say, hey, I want to be the trustee, or I want to be the power of attorney. And I look at it as, I'd rather just be a beneficiary. I'd rather just sit back, not do anything, and wait for my money. But yeah, a lot of families will fight to, I want to be the trustee or personal representative. Like, all you're doing is you're taking on more responsibility, you're taking on more work. So just by signing that document, you are now a fiduciary. So you have civil and potential criminal liability if you were to violate and not act on behalf of the person. So now, who would hold you accountable? Like, if any other beneficiaries see that you're acting in bad faith or not following the terms of the power of attorney or the trust, excuse me, then they could take you to court, and they could take you both to court civilly as well as financially. And if I'm not mistaken, you could be liable for, I think, even treble damages. So by you signing on, you're accepting that role. And then you're accepting the responsibility and liability as well. So yeah, so maybe think twice before signing on, accepting as a power of attorney, or signing on as a trustee. You're accepting more responsibility, which, and it could be for very little benefit. Now, sometimes I was meeting with a client today, and we talked about compensating the trustee or personal representative for their services. That's also something you can do to offset the fact that, all right, like, let's say you have 3 kids, one kid is a trustee, they have to get all the work done, and then the 2 others are beneficiaries. Is that really fair? Well, by maybe building in some compensation for the trustee, that can balance things out a little bit. So, all right, so hopefully that was helpful. All right, any other questions? All right, going once, going twice. All right, well, take care. Make it a